It all started in the month I turned 19 years old. When I was 15, I had surgery on my knee. So, at 19, I had to go back to the hospital to remove the titanium plate that was in my leg. And during this procedure, I ended up having to rest with my leg elevated. And that was a time when I got really upset, kind of bored, I had nothing to do. And that's when I made the decision to download the app and talk to some guy to, I don't know, take my mind off things. And that's how I met the guy. We matched and started talking. In one of the photos I put on the app, you could see a tattoo I have on my arm, of Medusa. And he would joke around in kind of a teasing way, but I liked that. And the more we talked, the more interested I became in him. But there was a catch. He lived 70 kilometers away from me. So I told him, right? I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have a car. I only had public transportation. He told me not to worry, that everything would work out, and that he would come see me. And that's what he did. We arranged to meet on a certain day. He traveled those 70 kilometers to my city, picked me up at my house. We went to the movies and watched Puss in Boots. Afterwards, we ate, and he took me up to the hills so we could see the city and also see the sea. It was a romantic moment, just the two of us. That kind of thing. We talked a lot. We really hit it off. And he told me that on that day, he was turning 21, which made him 2 years older than me. So I was really flattered to know that he chose me to spend his birthday with him. So while we were there, midnight came, I wished him happy birthday and I kissed him too. I remember he was surprised by the kiss, but he kissed me back. But he was a little shy, and that's how our story began. He was a police officer, and that's why our meetings and our relationship had to revolve around his availability. But honestly, for me, that wasn't a problem. Especially because he was the one who always took the car and drove 140 kilometers there and back every time he wanted to be with me and see me. It didn't take long. We started a relationship there. Yeah, we moved really fast. He met my family, we met each other's families, we started to connect. Everything happened really fast. And shortly after, I moved in with him. And of course, my family gave their blessing. His family was a little worried. I understand their concern. We were moving too fast. But the chemistry was so good, everything was so great that it was okay. And during the time we started living together, something happened that was like a proof of his love for me. He left his city and moved to Minas City so he could be close to me, to my grandfather's house that he had left for us, for my mom, which was empty. We moved into that place and started our life there. Some time passed, and then he got together with my family so they could arrange the marriage proposal because he wanted to ask for my hand, and it was a surprise. When I arrived and saw that gathering, his effort, him proposing to me, it was one of the most emotional days of my life. I was really happy. We had a bright future ahead of us, and I was completely moved by all of it. My family approved, of course, but his family thought we were moving too fast, right? Because by that time we were already living together, we were about to get married, so his mother wanted us to take things a little slower, but we were in such a hurry, all that chemistry, and we just went for it. From then on, I got a job at a laundromat, and there I made friends with some girls. My city is a small town, so pretty much everyone knew each other, and there were a lot of girls. We agreed that after we all got off work, we would go have a drink together, and that's what we did. We got there, started having some drinks, and I had some drinks, but the thing is, I don't drink alcohol at all. I don't drink, so I got drunk really quickly. And when I got drunk, there was a moment when I left the table to go to the bathroom. And one of the girls who was at the table, she followed me and she ended up kissing me. She ended up taking advantage of the situation because I was totally vulnerable. In fact, after that, it was really embarrassing. She gave me a big kiss. When I went back to the table, I texted my fiance to come pick me up and he came to get me. I remember that we argued that day. Of course. We always had some arguments, some little fights, but they were things we could really communicate about and resolve, so he talked to me. Because since I was in the process of trying to get pregnant because we wanted to have a child, alcohol would only harm me. So for him, I could go out with my friends, but getting drunk didn't make sense at that moment, not with the life goals we were creating together. I totally agreed with him, and I didn't mention the kissing thing because I was so embarrassed. I was already in the wrong for drinking. If I told him that someone even kissed me, it could cause other things. Besides, out of all the girls who worked with me at the laundry, this was the only girl he didn't like. He told me not to hang out with her, that she didn't give off good energy, that his vibe didn't match hers. So I was already in the wrong because of the drinking. I was already in the wrong because I had gone out with girls he didn't like. Specifically, this one, the others, he didn't really have anything against them, you know? And then if I told him about the kiss, I don't know, maybe it would have caused a bigger fight, so I kind of ignored what happened. The next day at work, it was a shock because the girls told me that this girl who kissed me, she said out loud at the table that she was making a diabolical plan, and this diabolical plan was to get me drunk, to kiss me and drag me to her house because she wanted to do to me everything she loves doing with women. In other words, to abuse me, knowing that I have a fiance, that I don't drink much, I got drunk really easily. And instead of them taking care of me, this was what happened. I was so embarrassed. I felt so disgusted. I felt so bad about this situation. Like, how could this happen? It was so outrageous, like, so upsetting. And having to work and deal with that issue was really delicate, but I loved that job, so I had to move on. But that was the first little thing, like that I had to learn to live with. That wasn't a part of me that hurt me. Knowing that I, a woman, had this plan against me. And then, okay, some time passed, and suddenly my aunt, my mother's sister, ran away. She ran away. And it was a shock for everyone. Like, why did she run away? Where would she go? What was happening? Where was she? And then it was that craziness of looking for her, trying to find out where she was. And during that time, my father changed my father. She started to get really worried about my aunt, to go after her, to suffer because of her disappearance. It was crazy. And then the bomb exploded within our family. My father, who had been married to my mother for 16 years, was in love and having an affair with my aunt. And it was a shock for everyone. My mother was very upset. She was really angry, angry. It was a huge betrayal, and then we found out where my aunt was. She was at the house, believe it or not, of the girl who kissed me, the girl who had the evil plan against me. She had hidden at this woman's house because they were friends. They knew each other. And what did my dad do? My dad left my mom, took my aunt, and ran away with my aunt to live their own lives. That was the biggest devastation of all because my dad, he was my best friend. And it was hard to believe that this breakup was happening in the family with an aunt. I felt such a heavy weight because of that fight. I felt so bad about all of this happening. And then when things started to like calm down a bit, what happens? The company ends my contract and doesn't renew with me. And I was even more shaken to find out that my contract wasn't renewed and that I had lost my job, that I was unemployed. All of this was very embarrassing for me. And since I was undergoing fertility treatment, my test results showed that I had PCOS, which is a type of infertility, meaning I wouldn't be able to get pregnant. So that was another huge blow for me. I was very sad because my dream was to be a mother, to give my husband a child. We were going to get married. The situation was very difficult. I had anxiety attacks, I had breakdowns. And believe it or not, my husband was by my side the whole time. He supported me, he gave me assistance, he gave me comfort, he understood me, he tried to make things easier for me. And during that time, my mother even came to live with us because my father had left her for her sister, so she was also suffering and lived in our house. But during this period, when I found out about my infertility, when I lost my job, and my father ran off with my aunt, and my mother, she put a lot of psychological pressure on me. Why? Because I was able to have contact with that aunt. She was still getting me jobs, freelance work, so I was in touch with that aunt. And my mother, she suffered because of this communication, this connection I had with my aunt. And she kept asking me to tell her what I knew about their relationship, as if I knew. But honestly, I didn't know anything. I was just as surprised as my mother. But that was hurting her, and it was hurting me too. So, in the middle of all that turmoil, I was suffering so much that all I could do was stay in bed. I didn't have the strength to get up. I didn't have the strength to do anything. That's when my boyfriend asked me to move to the countryside with him, closer to the city outskirts. Why? I needed fresh air, a change of environment, to get away from all of that for a while, so I agreed. He rented a house farther out in the country, while my mom stayed in the house my grandfather left us. All right, out in the countryside, things started to get maybe even worse. Our relationship changed, my relationship with him. He was always a very good man, but then things started to get harder. The relationship started to wear out. Why? Because I was unemployed, I had to take medication because I couldn't find happiness. He would come home from work, and when he got home from work, he also seemed overwhelmed, having to support the household, to handle everything on his own, dealing with my kids, crises. It was a delicate situation, and I remember that he started coming home late from work. One thing I noticed is that every time he came home late, he would bring me a rose. Even though he came home late, he tried to please me in some way, but still for me, it was unbearable. Until one day, I was feeling so bad, my mind was so overwhelmed, and I felt so alone in that marriage because I was isolated. I was in the countryside. I was far from my family. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a social life. And he worked all day. Sometimes he would come home late. I was having psychological problems. I was freaking out, and I really wanted to go back to the city, to be close to people again because that really made me feel better. So I called a friend of mine and asked him to give me a ride and pick me up. Because he had work nearby and could drop me off at my dad's house, because I wanted to talk to my dad, but he ended up taking me to my mom's house. And when I got to my mom's house, she didn't want to let me go to my dad's house. For no reason, and honestly, I was so weak, I was so emotionally lost that I didn't want to argue with my mom or fight with her about what I wanted or didn't want to do. I accepted that she wouldn't let me go to my dad's and stayed with her. So, when my husband arrived, he called me and I told him that I wasn't feeling well and that I had gone to my mom's house. As soon as he got off work, he went to my mom's house and talked to me. There he saw that I wasn't well, that my mom was taking care of me, and I explained to him that I didn't want to go back home. I wasn't abandoning him, I wasn't abandoning our relationship. I just wanted a little bit of light, a little bit of peace. I don't know. I was so mentally unwell that honestly I didn't even know what I wanted. In this situation, my dad and my boyfriend, my husband, they were very close. And actually, my husband felt so, so, so much pain about my dad and my mom's relationship ending because he loved and cared about both of them so much. He suffered too. Imagine me, I'm the daughter. If he, as the son in law, suffered, imagine me as the daughter. And he used to call and talk to my dad a lot. After one of those conversations, he just called me and told me that he wanted to break up. Just like that, without giving me an explanation. He talked about breaking up. He said I should go get my things, and I didn't understand what happened. What do you mean, get my things? I didn't want to end the relationship. I didn't want it to be this way. And I remember he had my vanity delivered to my mom's house, the vanity that was mine. So I gathered all my things and went to our house. When I got there, he had gathered all my things, separated everything that was mine, and asked me to come pick them up. When I got there, I noticed there was a wine bottle in the trash, which I thought was really strange because he had a severe liver problem, so he didn't drink any kind of alcohol. So how did that wine end up there? So when he arrived and found me at the house, when he saw that I was there with the wine, I confronted him. I started to question him. I started to ask, and he couldn't lie and confess that he was cheating on me, that he really was cheating on me. I was very shaken, but he turned to me and said that he also knew everything. And I was like, knew about what? And then I figured out that he thought that the guy who picked me up at my house to take me to my mom's place, my friend, that I had hooked up with him. I didn't hook up with him, but he kept mentioning the kiss, and I didn't know which kiss he meant. What kiss was he talking about? He got very upset. So I called my mom to have my dad pick me up because he confessed he was cheating on me, and my dad came to the door. My dad went to talk to him, and he confessed to my dad that he was cheating on me, that it was best for us to go our separate ways. In the car, when I was on my way back home, my dad started talking to me, right? And then I found out that actually my dad mentioned it to him because my dad thought he knew about the girl's kiss. Do you understand? Why? Because remember that my aunt stayed at her house when she ran away? So my dad was in contact with this girl, and then this girl must have said something to my aunt, and my dad mentioned it to him, asking if that was the reason for the breakup, if it was because of the kiss. And then my boyfriend thought it was about the guy who had picked me up at my house. But no, it wasn't about the guy from my house. It was about the girl, you know? But it wasn't because I wanted it. She had a plan against me. So it was really misunderstood. And that's when I texted him. I apologized. I asked him for forgiveness. I told him that, yeah, it was okay. I forgave his cheating too, so that we could forgive each other, so we could talk, and so we could work out our situation. But he just didn't want to. He just didn't want to listen to me. He didn't want to know. He didn't want to fix things. And that was destroying me, you know? But he said that he was psychologically shaken, that he also needed to be away for a while, but he asked me to wait for him because he would come back. So he filled me with hope, and I decided to wait. I said, no, it's okay, I'll wait, and as soon as we can, we'll talk, we'll clear things up, and we'll work things out. A month went by, and he went public with another woman on social media. Man, that destroyed me in a way that I felt so bad, so shaken, you know? It was something that made me feel like, wow, it destroyed me. Honestly, it broke my heart. He had started a relationship with a woman who lived 280 kilometers away, and he had moved and married this woman. Like the love of my life, the person I love the most. He didn't give me the chance to explain the situation, you know, what had happened. It was something completely unresolved. Until one day we had to attend a hearing because of a traffic case, you know? Because here's the thing. No, during that time when I was working, more at the beginning of the relationship, we had taken an international trip. It was a wonderful trip. It was a very pleasant trip, right? We went to Paris to Disneyland, but like I was in Paris physically, but my mind was back in Portugal because this story I'm telling you all happened in my country, Portugal. I was there, but not really present, you know. Still, it was a nice, healthy relationship. In fact, when I came back from Paris, he had already bought tickets for us to go somewhere else in the fall. And we even went on that trip too, but like he kind of ignored all these things, all our trips, all our dreams. He just ignored the situation, you know? Even with beautiful experiences, I still felt bad about it. And when I met him there at the hearing, because of all that travel stuff we used to do, I remember that he looked older, but at the same time, he was very handsome, and it brought back all those feelings I had for him. I was so like, I didn't even wait for the hearing to end. Of course, I wanted to go talk to him, you know, to know how he was doing because he went alone. He didn't go with his wife. So I saw an opportunity to get closer and at least try to talk to him about what happened. But I didn't have the courage, I didn't have the strength. I ended up leaving the hearing early and going back home. I got home, I was so down, I was so shaken, you know, I cried. And that's when my dad talked to him, called him, and said that we needed to talk at least to resolve and end this cycle with dignity. But he just replied that he would think about it, and in the end, he didn't do it. I always wanted to text him, but at the same time, I think he's going to ignore me because he doesn't want to know, he doesn't want to listen, he doesn't want to resolve things, you know? The thing is, it was left unresolved inside me, and that haunted me, and sometimes still does. The fact that he created another story, another life, and left me with that feeling and with those thoughts. That I cheated on him with my friend, that I cheated on him with the woman from my work, that I was the one who abandoned him because I was the one who left home, you know? But that wasn't it. I was just in a really bad place mentally and needed my mom's help. Anyway, sometimes I do think about sending a message just to clear things up, not to get back together. I don't want to get back with him, but I also don't want things to stay this way. That feeling that I was the one who was wrong, that I was to blame, that I didn't value the relationship, that I messed up, that I wasn't faithful, that I wasn't loyal. When deep down, I was just struggling mentally. But now I wonder, is it really worth bringing up things from the past? If I send a message or something like that, couldn't it bring up all our pain and end up making our situation even worse? Well, I don't know. I just know that one of the most painful feelings is feeling guilty for something you didn't do and carrying that guilt as if you really were wrong. Hi, models. How are you all doing? Guys, what a situation. When we have unresolved issues, it hurts so much, right? I'm speaking from my own experience. Sometimes I want to say something to someone, clear up the misunderstanding, but there's no way for me to send a message, to reach out, to try to fix it. And the fear of the person ignoring me, not believing me, judging me, not wanting to listen, right? There are so many issues involved. But one thing I realized throughout this whole story is that you two didn't work things out. And the fact that you two didn't work things out as two adults leaves a gap, right? But the advice I give you is not always. You need to tell the other person how you feel. Maybe just one therapy session is enough for you to be able to talk to yourself, to understand that you're not to blame, that you're not wrong, that you did your best, that you loved as much as you could, that he was the great love of your life. Even if you marry someone else and manage to structure your emotions so you can handle your next relationships, because this can leave a hole. And then, when another man comes close to you, instead of staying by your side, he will end up falling into that hole too. And you'll end up dragging your relationship into self-sabotage, And then you can't picture your future. You can't imagine another marriage. You can't imagine having a child. One thing she said, actually, is that he posted that he was going to be a father, and she thought that would hurt her, but it didn't. For the first time, she felt that happiness and wished him well. It didn't hurt her that much, but that's the fact. Unresolved issues, right? Unresolved issues eat away at our minds. Unresolved issues destroy our feelings and our thoughts. Unresolved issues make us want to clear everything up so nothing is left out of line. But life doesn't work that way, unfortunately, and there are things that are completely out of our control. Clearly, when he broke up and moved on with his life, he made his choice. And if he made his choice, he has to deal with the consequences of that. You know what's best for you. And sometimes this might have happened for a much greater good. You might only understand it later on, and with the help of a professional. Well, I truly hope from the bottom of my heart that you heal, that you find the best version of yourself within you, and that you seek psychological help, okay? Because professionals are really good. They're there to help with this awakening, to ask you questions where the answers are already inside you. And I hope you are very happy, okay? Maybe you've also been through something like this, with a huge unresolved issue, a mess that you couldn't explain yourself, something you still carry inside you to this day and think, wow, I really wish I could explain this to so-and-so, but I didn't. Send me your story so we can share it here on the channel, on Stories, Edipalo's channel, abrahamelio.com. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Kisses, and see you in the next video.